It is the morning sports desk. I'm CJ Baumgartner, Corey Tackman, my co-host. Corey, we're back. We had a few day delay with state wrestling and section girls basketball playoffs going on. A lot of stuff happening, but we're back. We're here to recap some of it all, and then we'll talk about your experience going to a Wolves game. I mean, it was just it was a busy weekend.
It was a very busy weekend. Yeah, it did all start with a state wrestling, state team and individual wrestling Thursday, Friday, and Saturday last week. Just an unbelievable showing from our local athletes all over the place and local teams. Staples Motley ends up finishing second in the Class A team tournament. They also bring home an individual champion at 107 pounds. Gage Birga is the individual champ, and I mean just top six finishes kind of all over the region.
Happy finished second, I believe.
Yeah, they're all over the place. I am hesitant to start trying to guess who everyone is all the way through because we had a lot of different athletes, but I do especially want to congratulate Gage Birga and his state championship at 107 pounds. Just kind of an unbelievable weekend as from the radio station side of things. Kyle and Dan are very, very busy at wrestling, and they do an awesome job of bringing all that action. But kind of behind the scenes, with Tammy and all the stuff that she has to do behind the scenes at the radio station, and Jen getting things ready, and you and me and pulling in Zeke every once in a while too, to be able to just sit in and make sure that we're on the air. It's a lot that needs to come together. I was joking with somebody yesterday, we probably have 6 or 7 weeks of actual work out of the entire year. And this is one of those weeks.
Yeah.
So in relation to what is an actual job and actual work on a day-to-day basis, it's not that big of a deal, but we are unprepared. This was like, all of a sudden, hey, you need to run a marathon and you haven't trained for it. Our jobs do not train us to have actual work. So when we have it's a lot. And the fact that we're able to pull it off like we do, I think each and every single year, and I think put a really nice broadcast together means a lot, not only for us, but for those athletes involved at state wrestling and their families and those schools and all the advertisers that we have. It's a lot that needs to come together in short order, and it happens in a flourish. So I'm just really happy with how that went from our perspective. It's a really fun week and weekend.
Yeah, it's a lot going on, and like you said, there's a lot of moving pieces to it. It's one of our most listened to sports broadcasts of the year, and I think you mentioned last week, Corey, within like 20 minutes of the first day of wrestling coverage, we had multiple calls coming into the radio station saying, sounds awesome. Thanks for having this on the air. We're listening. And that, that always means a lot. And so to pull off some of these broadcasts is really, really, really fun. Congratulations to Weld Berthue at Verndale Parker's Prairie and United North Central. His team's getting down there, and all the individual wrestlers that are sprinkled on throughout the weekend. It was a busy, busy time. I think in girls wrestling, Abby Irvesty got second. That's the notable one on the girls' side of things in terms of state tournament. But just a lot going on. And Kyle and Dan, like you said, Corey, do a really, really good job. And here we are. It's in the books, and now we can collectively at the radio station breathe the sigh of relief, but not quite yet, because now girls basketball playoffs are in full swing. Boys basketball playoffs are this week, some games even tonight in the pigtails and kind of those opening rounds. So
not even pigtails in 7AA boys. They're just starting. They seed 1 through whatever. I think, I don't know if they have a full 16 teams in that section. I can't remember,
and they're like, let's go.
It's election day tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So the choice was wait till Wednesday and then go Wednesday, Thursday, or go Monday, Thursday. And I guess in the season of Lent, a Monday, Thursday is appropriate too. Anyway, was that not a good joke? Was that a bad pun?
It's so bad it's almost enjoyable. How about that one?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That's what we strive for in this comedy on this program.
So we have section girls basketball on Wednesday, section boys basketball on Thursday. Fingers crossed for more girls basketball on Friday, boys basketball on Saturday. The girls game we can tease right now, 8AA girls basketball, Perham versus Barnesville. That will be a 6 o'clock tip-off of the 5:45 pregame on the Superstation Wednesday evening. That game to be played at Concordia. And we'll have that one on the air, obviously. The boys' games are yet to be determined. We want to see what happens today before we jump to any conclusions about Thursday's games. But keep up to speed on all those details at wadenaradio.com. Twin Spring Training Baseball is up there as well, so you can see our plans for Twins throughout the rest of the spring and obviously through the summer. We're full steam ahead with a lot of basketball this week.
A lot of basketball, and we had a couple games on the air on Saturday night. We had a doubleheader of girls basketball action in Section 5A West, and we had Bertha Hewitt, the 4 seed, taking on the 1-seeded Walker Hackensack Akeley. A lot of things happened in that game, Corey. We spent a whole lot of time off air talking about the 2 games in 5A on Saturday night, and starting off with the Bertha Hewitt versus Walker Hackensack Akeley. I talked with both coaches pregame, and both coaches knew that, either team was capable of winning, but, Walker was the better team for a reason. They had 21 wins on the season, now 22. And I talked with Coach Quam pregame at Bertha Hewitt, and he said, we've had 10 games this season where we've had a chance to tie or win with the final shot, and we're 2-8 in those games. And he's like, Walker Hackensack Akeley is a team that, watching some tape, was in a lot of those same situations, but they found ways to come out on top and win. And that's what separates the nice teams from the really nice teams. And you just saw Bertha Hewitt went into halftime with the lead. A lot of the second half, they had not a big lead. Neither team really had a lead more than 5 points throughout the ball game. But in those last 4 minutes, Walker Hackensack Akeley only playing 6 girls, and in the final 3 minutes, they only played with 5 because one of them fouled out. They just found a way to make enough plays to win the game and do what they've done all season long. Their shooting was not where they thought it would be. It took them a while to get going, but at the end of the day, they were just able to make enough plays, and they get the win, they advance, and they're still right on track with where they want to be.
Yeah, I was able to watch both of those games on Saturday, and both games ended up being just like nice, competitive, evenly matched basketball games.
They're what you want.
Bertha Hewitt brought everything to the table I think that you could have possibly asked for in that game to keep things interesting for Walker Hackensack Akeley. The Wolves earned that victory for sure. And then the second game, I think the same can be said, 2 evenly matched ball clubs with Nevis and Verndale.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what you want in these playoff games. I thought both games had juice. That's what the young kids are saying these days. They brought the juice, and it was playoff atmospheres. It's fun. It's what we talked about last week in the gyms and why we love going to playoff games and the extra vibes and all that. But I thought they were both competitive. I thought for Bertha Hewitt, their offense just couldn't quite get those shots that they wanted to at the end. I thought that their bench played a great game. When you look at, they have a freshman in Bayett who came off the bench and had a nice game. There was a senior, Taylor Lloyd, who came out and had, I think, about 8 points off the bench, a lot of those coming in the first half. And then the Piper Dean coming off the bench as well for Bertha Hewitt, a sophomore, who came in and was a spark plug at 5'0", probably the best rebounder they had yesterday. So that was a fun game as well for them. Like you said, they gave it everything they had. Walker able to make enough plays to win, and they keep their season rolling. They're a nice team as well. They've got some pretty good wins over the season. They have that 1 seed for a reason. But talking about the Verndale and Nevis game, Corey, that's a game that we knew could be pretty competitive. Nevis and Verndale met in the regular season. Verndale came away with a 7-point win back in mid-January, but we knew it was going to go down to the wire, and Verndale just could not quite get things going. Really, they couldn't get things going for most of the game, but in that second half especially, it felt like they got open looks. They got the things that they wanted to do. They just couldn't, sometimes it felt like there was a lid on that basketball hoop.
It's how the game goes sometimes, right? That just doesn't matter. You feel like you could be standing on the beach and you couldn't throw it into the ocean. And and there were stretches for both teams, I thought, in that game, in that second half, where it was just like, is anybody going to do anything? And I thought teams played decent defense.
Right.
You were there in person, so you have a little better perspective on it. But I thought the teams played good enough defense. But yeah, it seemed to be a case of missed shots from time to time.
Yeah, and I think it's like that for both teams. And like you talked about, the defense was good. And the defense for both teams were able to do a good job of speeding up the other's offense. It felt like it was a ping pong match, the way it was going back and forth sometimes with the basketball, because both teams were just doing a really good job of turning the other team over. And I thought Verndale played good defense in the game. I thought they did what they needed to do on that end. And there's just going to be a couple things, coaches at the end of the game. It was like that in the Bertha Hewitt, Walker Hackensack Akeley game. Bertha Hewitt did not have great trips to the free throw line, and they couldn't cash in and keep it close. And in the second, over the course of the game, Nevis was something like 16 of 19 at the free throw line. Verndale was something like 6 of 16. And when you look at that, it's not, I think both teams had a good chance to win that game. I think Verndale had a chance to win that game. They played well enough to win that game, but it's just sometimes those little things can kind of add up. And Bertha Hewitt learned that in that first game, and that happened to Verndale in the second game as well.
Pretty straightforward sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So those teams, great seasons for both, for Bertha Hewitt, kind of getting the season they want to kind of break in some years where they haven't been able to get there. Verndale, a nice season. They were they won a lot of games. They were, they beat Walker Hackensack Akeley. They beat Nevis in the regular season. They beat Wadena Deer Creek. They've played good basketball all year long. And excuse me, it's just sometimes how it happens with playoff basketball, but that was a really fun season for Verndale.
I think there was probably an argument to be made, and I think a few people in Verndale probably have made the argument that they could have very easily been the number 1 seed in that section. But I think it's a testament then to that section to that subsection that the 1-4 and the 2-3 matchups were as close as they were. It seemed like it wouldn't have mattered. You were going to be in for a dogfight on that Saturday, and all 4 of those teams. The only thing that came out was, did you come out with 1 black eye or 2?
Section 6, or from across section basketball play, I should say. In section 8AA, Perham got the win over Park Rapids area. Holly beats Monaga. So the Braves season, again, they had a great regular season, went on like a 20-some game winning streak. I think they only lost their first game of the regular season and their last game of the regular season throughout that stretch. And it's pretty darn good. Their season comes to a close, not the result they wanted, but another nice season. So when we talk about girls basketball in our listening area, there's Walker, there's Nevis, Walker Hackensack Akeley, there's Nevis, but there's also Perham as well. So there's that kind of things after that first Saturday, and this happens with every single sport, you get past kind of that second round, and all of a sudden you look around and you kind of see, all right, here's who this team, find those teams that have a chance to really do something special.
Again, Perham Yellow Jackets will be on the air Wednesday night. They'll play Barnesville. Barnesville beat them twice during the regular season. 2 conference losses for the Yellow Jackets, both to the Barnesville Trojans. So there's going to be a lot at stake in that game, obviously, on Wednesday night at Concordia. CJ, you'll have the play-by-play for that one if I haven't told you that. 5:45 pregame with a 6 o'clock tip-off on the Superstation K106.
So let's talk about your experience, Corey, at the Timberwolves game on Friday night. How was that? Tell us everything.
Well, it was really fun. It was a hectic day. I have not been to many Timberwolves games in my life. This was at least game number 2. It may have been number 3. I haven't been to a lot of Wolves games. Really fun, super chaotic. Timberwolves, there's just constant commotion. It doesn't stop. It's a minor league baseball game. Every break there's something going on the floor. The music plays the entire game. The only time the sound stops is during free throws. It's absolutely bananas. I do want to thank the Staples Motley Basketball Association. They did a raffle. I won these tickets through that raffle, so that was cool to kind of get that opportunity. I was over there for a basketball game and bought some tickets while I was over there. So that was anyway. It was very cool. I brought my kindergartner with. And we just had a really great time. There were a couple of things though that I noticed. First of all, they lost, so I can never go to a Wolves game again. My attendance has kicked off a 2-game losing streak. 24-second shot clock in person feels so fast. So fast. And I've spent an entire season now watching a 35-second shot clock. So there's probably a little understanding of, my brain not being able to calculate 11 seconds quicker than that. But 24-second shot clock is really quick. Also, I go to most games and I keep a score sheet, right? Like that's my job. If I'm at a game, I'm paying attention to every single detail or as many details as I possibly can. When you're at a game with a kindergartner and there's a 24-second shot clock and there's commotion everywhere and your wife is texting you, asking you how your kindergartner is doing and his grandparents will be like, how's he? You're just like, I looked up in the fourth quarter. I was like, oh, Jaden's got 26 and Malik Monk has 33. I haven't seen them make a bucket. It's the fourth quarter. Like they're the team's top 2 scorers. I have no idea what's happening. It's really, it's fun. They are so huge.
They're huge.
You forget, I think, what 7 feet looks like until you see Rudy Gobert in person. Even if you're 200 feet away from them, they're freaks. Those are circus freaks who happen to be able to throw a basketball through a ring. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm in that as offensively as possible. Those guys are circus freaks. They would, in the 1930s, those guys would be with Barnum and Bailey's. Like, look what this guy can do. They're enormous human beings.
Yeah. I mean, those games, and especially because even on TV, I think there was like on TV, you don't quite understand it either. There was pictures of guys at the NFL Combine, and they kind of like work their way into the press room, and you see a 22-year-old college football player who's like 6'5" and just built like a brick house, and he's up against like random 48-year-old reporters. And everybody goes, keep this in mind when people say that they could get a 3-yard carry in the NFL.
Right.
Because they're massive.
But then also remember that 6'5" is like 3 inches shorter than Luka Doncic, who's a point guard.
Right.
Steph Curry's 6'3". That guy's this much taller than Steph Curry.
So that guy's considered short.
Think how big that guy is. And that Steph Curry is taller than, like as tall as him. It's stunning.
It's stunning. It's amazing. Yeah. And, obviously the Target Center a lot more packed than it has been in recent years. They're even talking about taking potentially the tarps off of the upper bowl that they have in certain spots for the playoffs. So Target Center is becoming it's becoming a vibe. I mean, I know we talk about it all the time, but when Minnesota basketball is good, a lot of people love to jump in on it and be a part of it. So it's really fun when the Target Center is going the way that it is.
Oh, it's the best. Yeah. It's being in a place where everyone wants to be there. Because sometimes when things are not good, people don't want to be there, but they have season tickets. So you feel obligated. That was not it. I mean, and it's everybody that's at it. Like my kid was not the youngest person in that arena.
Right.
And there are some kids who it seemed very obvious regulars at the Target Center throughout the season. Mm-hmm. It's the place. They're the team.
They're the
right
team
now in the state. They are the team, which is a foreign thing to say as a Minnesota sports fan.
Exactly. They lost to the Kings in overtime on Friday night. Anthony Edwards had to leave in the second half for the birth of his kid. He came back to play on Sunday where they lost 89-88 to the Los Angeles Clippers. The Wolves are now the 2 seed in the West. Right now, the OKC Thunder beat Phoenix last night to take that top spot. But, a lot of fluctuation. Wolves offense just getting kind of weird in spots. I mean, there was a point a couple weeks ago where they're number 1 in offense and defensive efficiency. Definitely still there defensively. They held a good Clippers team with a lot of star power to 89 points, and 9 times out of 10, that should get you the win. But that just wasn't one of those times. Corey, I think somebody put this out on Twitter. Do you agree that the Wolves have I think it was 41 wins, however many wins they have, and 19 existential crises.
They're in they've got some things to sort out on offense. It's just that straightforward. They have some things that they need to sort out on offense, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a malicious compliance a little bit from Cat. Like, all right, everyone's going to tell me this is Ant's team going forward. So offensively, we go as Ant goes. I don't know if it's total unselfishness in the best way. Cat is this team's best offensive player.
Yes.
But
most consistent at the very least.
I think he's the best. I think he's Ant just isn't there yet because of the consistency. But this is Ant's team, and they kind of need to go the way he goes, offensively speaking. And Ant, God bless him, if he makes one in a row, he's shooting the next one, let alone if he makes 3 in a row. But for crying out loud, if he misses 2 in a row, he's shooting the next one. Like, that guy is he's a walking heat check just to make sure. Like, he'll jack one up just to be like, am I freezing cold right now? I better double check.
Right. Well, did I miss 3 in a row? I'm due. Did I make 3 in a row? Let's keep it going.
Yeah, so there's this weird thing that exists about them that, like, for the betterment of their offense, the ball probably needs to run through Cat immediately. But for the long-term benefit of this team, I get why it needs to run through Edwards. They're just in this weird, I don't know what it is. It feels like an awkward middle phase. Like, they're due for a haircut, but they want to grow it out, and it's just past that, like, I don't know what to do with it anymore. I'll just put a hat on.
Right, exactly. And yeah, that you pretty much said what needs to be said on the Wolves, and we'll kind of see how this keeps going. They have a chance against Portland tonight to get back in the win column, so they should, do that ideally.
They held the Clippers to 89 points. Their defense is good.
Their defense is stellar. If they can just figure out to be top, they don't need to be best offensive team. If they can be top 6 with the number 1 defense, that wins you the NBA Finals. So anyway, let's finish up on this, Corey. The NFL Combine, I think, is wrapping up, but happened over the weekend. The Combine itself isn't necessarily the big deal anymore. What is the big deal?
Boring.
What is the big deal is the totally not happening, no tampering whatsoever. But if there was tampering, this would definitely be the time to do it. There's a lot of agents, there's a lot of GMs, a lot of coaches all wandering around Indianapolis. And the big thing for the Vikings is it's a lot of Kirk Cousins implications with this here. The big notes out of the weekend: 1, Danielle Hunter, iffy to doubtful on him coming back. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah came out vehemently and said, we are not trading Justin Jefferson. He said any rumors to that are bogus. Why would we trade Justin? I'm going to paraphrase for him. Why would we trade Justin Jefferson? Are we stupid? No. So we're not going to trade him. And anybody who says we are is also stupid. And the big news was Kirk Cousins. And the big vibe I've got of listening to reports and things that have come out in that nature, there's a couple different Vikings quarterback nuggets, and we can save those for another episode. But specifically, it feels like it's between the Atlanta Falcons and the Minnesota Vikings. And the Falcons are, according to reports, the owner wants Kirk Cousins. And are they prepared to give Kirk Cousins the money that the Vikings don't? Because the Vikings spent all weekend talking about how much they love Kirk Cousins and we'd love him back and we'd love that. But then Kevin O'Connell also said, and he sounded a little deflated when he said it, Kirk's earned the right to be a free agent, which also means they're not sure he's going to come back, which the vibe I'm getting from all these people talking and all the reports I've read is the Vikings have an offer for Kirk Cousins. It is not probably as much, and they're probably preparing to get outbid by the Falcons, but how much do the Falcons outbid for Kirk Cousins? And, the factor of Kevin O'Connell and the coaching staff and homogeny, and like, how much does that outweigh the money? Corey, what are your vibes? Is Kirk Cousins a Viking or a Falcon?
I go back and forth. I think The important thing is in all of this, and we've had to remind ourselves oftentimes, is that Kirk has always done what is best for him since the very, very beginning. And what might be best for him may change and shift and be fluid. But in the past, what has been best for him is the absolute most money possible.
Guaranteed money, especially.
Guaranteed money, especially. Now, that doesn't mean that what's best for him going forward is, I got all that guaranteed money. Holy moly, I'm set up and my kids are set up and their kids are set up for forever and ever. Now what's important for me is that open spot in the trophy room that I showed everybody on the Netflix series. That's for the Super Bowl trophy. And he has to make that choice now of what is going to give him the best opportunity at that Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's not the money anymore. And it is reasonable, like we talked about a week or so ago, to say that maybe the Vikings aren't his best opportunity at a Super Bowl. If he wants to win a Super Bowl, maybe the best chance is with Atlanta, or
Right.
at least the best chance of getting into the playoffs. We all think the NFC North just got a little bit more difficult coming into this next season. And maybe the NFC South is a little more wide open, which means a few more wins, which means a better seed in the playoffs, which means a little easier road in the playoffs.
You get a home playoff game for sure.
Exactly. So, and I don't know if it's defeating of a thing for Kevin O'Connell to say he's earned the right to be a free agent, so much as it's just a matter of fact. The guy, he played out his contract.
The Vikings didn't want to re-sign him.
That's how this works. This is unfortunately, if you're in a Vikings and Kirk Cousins love affair, and I don't mean that disparagingly, it's no longer in the Vikings' hands. Kirk gets to make the decision.
Right.
So I don't know how to answer that question. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be a Viking or not. A part of me feels like still yes, but there's not a single thing in his history that would indicate that he's coming back.
Well, and you talk about the money and the guaranteed money, and Cousins said it's not always about the money. It's about what the money represents. He said that at the locker room press conference at the end of the season when the Vikings cleaned out their lockers. And basically, Kirk Cousins is a guy who's been disrespected his entire career. He never got a D1 offer out of high school. Even when he got to Michigan State, he wasn't the guy. Even when he got to the NFL, he was a backup quarterback. And then, he got to become a starter, but Washington didn't want him. And then the Vikings signed him, but then the Vikings didn't want him with Kwesi and KOC not giving him the contract extension he was looking for last offseason. The Vikings basically saying, let's wait and kind of kick the can down the road. So if you're Kirk Cousins, it's like, well, the Vikings, they say all these kind words, but they didn't give me the contract I wanted last year. And they're not giving me the contract I want right now. Atlanta, if they're willing to give me the guaranteed money, it's not about the guaranteed money. The money helps, but it's more of like, that shows that they think I'm their missing piece. And maybe that's enough for him to go, I'm going to feel more valued there. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I think right now I'm on like a 70% Kirk's gone, 30% Kirk's coming back. In terms of my mind, I'm not ruling it out, but it seems not that it's impossible, but it feels like it's getting more unlikely.
I would say I'm more of a 50-50, and not just because I literally think it's a coin flip. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like, I just don't. I have no. You read more stuff, you see more stuff than I do. I think the Vikings situation is good. I think the Vikings make the playoffs easily if he plays all season. And I think having a guy like Justin Jefferson to throw to is
ideal
for every quarterback on the planet. And I think that counts, and I think that has to matter. I think It does matter to him. But he wants to win a Super Bowl. He wants to win a Super Bowl. And if he doesn't think the Vikings are going to offer that best opportunity to win a Super Bowl because of other cap money that comes from it, there's significantly fewer improvements the Vikings can make to this team if Kirk Cousins is on the team.
Right.
He's not an idiot. He knows that too. So is he willing to take a pay cut to pay for the Vikings to open up more money for them to improve it in other places?
Doesn't seem likely.
We don't know, but he's never indicated in his career that is his way of approaching who he's going to play for.
Right. This has been the Morning Sports Desk for Monday, March 4th.